Well, hello and welcome to another recording of the Social Media Newsroom. My name is Pascal 𝗬𝗏 and I'm back for more news, rant and rave about your favorite social network. But I'm not alone. As you can see, I'm joined by the one and only Natalie 𝗬𝗏 from 𝗬𝗺𝗃 Media. Natalie, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back, Pascal. It is always a pleasure.
We were talking about in a green room, this is just delightful, talking about your favorite subject, recording it in a video and podcast format and letting others join in the fun. So as you know, all of you, we have a new format for segment that would allow us to explore what it means to be looking after your social media campaign in today's economy. Spotlight on YouTube today. So wait for the update and the announcement. Then we're going to move on to the tech or tactic to try out this month. We're then going to talk about important or not so important news from the world of social media. And we're going to end today's recording with a film marketing social media special with which movie, Natalie?
Oh, the Super Mario movie. So let's go, Pascal.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting. I have not seen this movie, which surprised me greatly because I'm quite a keen gamer. But I wonder whether my view were kind of jaundiced by the failed attempt in the 90s. Remember, they did have a movie version of Super Mario, and that wasn't so good. So listen, you've done the research. I've done a bit of research on the social media, and I have to say, I'm now quite keen to see this movie.
Well, I've done my job already. So yes, you must check it out.
Excellent. Well, everyone, we're going to move on to Spotlight on YouTube just after this. Now, this may surprise quite a few of our viewers and listeners that we chose YouTube as part of a social media spotlight, and we will have a conversation very soon. Is YouTube a social network or is it not? But I wanted to really get your reaction on some recent announcement from the CEO of YouTube, Neil Mohan. And it's interesting, YouTube has been around since 2005 and 6, bought by Google, started life as a dating website, but it was very, very short-lived. And then it became that kind of video publishing, hosting platform. And people are making use of YouTube sometimes to be a revenue generation activities. Sometimes it's more of a library of content for after-sales care. There's so many different ways and means to use YouTube. But those announcements for 2024, I think, are rather important. So I'm going to go through them one by one, get your reaction, and then we'll open the discussion as to whether or not we think YouTube is a social network and should belong to the family of Facebook, X, TikTok, and all the others. So announcement number one from the CEO of YouTube, Natalie, is that YouTube is going to turn up the volume on shorts and AI content. It so happens that shorts is now the most popular form of content being viewed on YouTube. We have to date 70 billion daily views of shorts. That's an increase of 50% year on year. But there is a bit of a drawback with shorts. Shorts viewers, those who like the short form content, Natalie, do not become long form viewers. So we all had aspiration that we would do shorts content, and then there would be almost like a breadcrumb trail to your long form content on your channel, and you would get more followers, more inquiries. And this is not happening whatsoever. And more importantly, you earn no advertising money on shorts either. And then YouTube is going to make it easier for people to actually create AI-generated videos, what has been called faceless videos, which is narration, music, scenes, but you don't see really anybody from the business. So what is your reaction and your feelings about this business of shorts and AI video content?
Well, we see shorts very much following what we would refer to as the TikTok effect. So it's that short form video content that sets off all those little receptors in our brains, particularly if they are done very, very well. So we often like a hook and then a reveal and a payoff, and it sets off all of these little kind of, chemical glowing reactions in our brain. And we think, oh, that's really good. Then we want to scroll and we want to consume more and more and more and more of this short form content because it gives us that chemical release in our brain. So we almost become slightly addicted to this short form content. It makes it hard to drop out of it. So I'm not at all surprised, first of all, that YouTube have gone in on it, because I know it's something that TikTok have faced a lot of backlash for, but if you can't beat them, then join them. is some mentality. The short form video is going to be on the internet, people are going to consume it. So you might as well, as part of your massive video offering, incorporate a way for shorts to be delivered to audiences. For content creators, it does offer them a different type of content presentation that takes a little break away from the standard YouTube kind of format, where a video might traditionally be 3 minutes plus, if not kind of significantly more in some instances. So it allows a different type of audience to engage with content in a different way. But I think, as you say, Pascal, this will be very much building it for an alternative to TikTok audience. You might not get your traditional full YouTube audience engaging with every one of your stories. So see it more as an add-on to your YouTube strategy, and consider creating content that is specifically driven for shorts. This is probably why YouTube is so keen to tool that up, make it easier for us to create that short form video content, because you're exactly right. That longer form stuff, where if you go, oh, well, we'll just give them the first 45 seconds and then a bit of a click here to find out more, it just doesn't translate, because it takes you away from that constant scroll reward that every bit of your chemical impulsive brain is saying, stay here because we're getting all these payoffs. This is delivering for us. So pleased to see YouTube innovating with shorts. Pleased to see it as an addition to the platform, because I think if you are going to continue to be the global dominant player in video in the online world, you need to be catering for the fact that we all have very short attention spans. We all want that short form video content, giving audiences a place to consume it. But this is almost an additional element to your YouTube strategy. It's not something you can simply be like, oh, well, we'll just copy and paste that. We'll just pay the first 60 seconds, because it won't translate. You need to kind of get back to that. It's a short, make it a short, make it really strong, get it out to your audience.
It's almost as though, in terms of a mindset, you need to almost ignore that it's on YouTube. It's a different channel in terms of distribution. It's a different form of content, and within the short, timeline, I've got to tell a full story. Fascinating. Now, number two, the second announcement from the CEO of YouTube is creators will need to make more money. Now, what they have recognized is that there are some very blatant inequalities with regard to those who earn more revenue from the advertising that you see. So, for example, it's clear that lifestyle videos like gaming, traveling, cooking, and so on earn a lot less, oddly, than those who offer financial advice, digital marketing advice, oddly, and all the others, even though they seem people. So there's a mismatch there. So what they've decided to do, and they're going to roll this out across the year, they're going to essentially offer different ways to earn revenue, in addition to just the spot advert that from time to time we get quite annoyed about, because we have to sit there and watch twice 5 seconds of adverts about something. So for example, they're going to offer storefronts as an option. They're going to offer the ability to actually charge for online courses on YouTube, which I think is interesting. And they're going to, they've already played with that, membership type revenue. So they're going to diversify income for creators to try and create more of a balancing act between the different form of content, but also making sure that people are rewarded for their efforts.
Yes, I think a bit of a game changer, and nice to see YouTube leading the kind of new era of this, because they were the first platform to actually monetize a system for their creators, so their creators could be paid and financially rewarded. So really interesting to see them sort of pioneer this a little bit. I think what they've probably done is had a holistic look at how do our kind of online personalities that have their digital presence as their business, as their bread and butter, how do they want or need to get audiences to engage with them, their content, their products, their services, in a way that means it's a viable option for them. Because the only way that you can ensure that you have this massive content creators creating content and putting really good content on your platform is if you are the platform that looks after them best. Otherwise they will go and up and leave, and they'll all be over on Twitch or on TikTok, and you will lose that kind of creation, which is one of the big elements of actually getting the traffic to come through to you. So I think they're very keen to be seen as being very innovative around this. Certainly looking at elements around shopping. So this would literally be as TikTok launches TikTok shops. So they're bringing in kind of rival kind of ways that users can basically set up a bit of their influencer marketing and take a cut of any sales that they generate. A little bit like old school affiliate marketing, Pascal, that you and I will be very familiar with, just with less steps. So it's literally just a kind of a system in place for that. Also memberships, that would be around the sort of like patron style kind of system where actually people might pay for exclusive content, which keeps them on the channel. And certainly these digital learning systems, so actually even if you are like you or I and you've got a ton of good information to share through video, but you perhaps don't have, you know, all of the elements of I can create a blockbuster YouTube video, actually utilizing assets that you might have like spreadsheets, like kind of some nice slides, like good graphics, actually that gives you a way to reposition, reformat that, particularly around those kind of like financial influencers, people that might be doing great elements with just how to do a particular skill or how to kind of, you know, master something in your spare time. So it's bringing in more opportunities for money to be made by creators, but that actually gives YouTube more creators coming to the platform, more expressions of creativity, because we actually, in some regards to video, we don't know what the next big thing is going to be that's going to catch everyone's attention. Did you think that perhaps 20 years ago we would all be tuning into Twitch streams and just watching people gaming online? Because I know that when I was growing up and we only had one game console between my brother, actually it was much more fun to be the one playing than it was to be the one watching at any given moment. However, things have shifted quite a lot. So we're almost looking at these platforms in a way that they're keen to explore, move forward, push the boundaries. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you incentivize your creators to get creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is interesting is that this idea that they've listened and they've, you know, they are adjusting what they're doing, and the YouTube creator kind of community is, I mean, I get emails all the time asking for my opinion and reaction on a number of things, particularly since we converted a lot of that content into podcast format as well. Let me move on to the third announcement. This is all to do with TV making a huge comeback. An expression used in the announcement by the CEO of YouTube, living room watch time. So what they're saying is that, you know, intuitively, you could be forgiven to think that the vast majority of people watch YouTube content on mobile phones, tablets, and laptops, but actually, not only are they watching it on TV, but they're watching it together. This is becoming now back to the family moment or couples moment where you choose sort of content, and because of the YouTube algorithm, you end up actually watching more than one video on the particular subject, particular series. So they're saying the data is that people will watch your content on their TV set. So recommendation, upload in 4K if you can, use high-res thumbnail, work on your first 10, 15 seconds of your video and actually organize your content into episodes. And as you read, you know, the advice shared by the CEO of YouTube, all I'm thinking of, so essentially you're asking us to behave like we are a streaming service like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney Plus. So as a nod and advice to all of you and listeners, literally study your favorite streaming platform. Look at how they organize themselves. Look at how they present you with series more than one-offs and that kind of things. But fascinating, you know, that we're going to get our business content to a point watched on the TV screen more often than we thought.
No, absolutely. I know certainly in my house, watching YouTube on the TV is a massive thing, particularly as TVs have got smarter. But even if your TV is not necessarily smart TV, so we cast via our Apple TV box, but you can also cast directly from mobile device. So if you're watching something in the living room, often I'll catch myself watching something on my really small screen and then think, oh, I should just put it on the TV, watch it on the big screen, even just for my own personal enjoyment and less squinting and less small screen time, which seems to be bad, but big screen time, we sort of, you know, you don't really pay attention to that. So yeah, but I am not alone in this, because there's actually 1 billion hours of YouTube video that's watched every day now on TV screens. So we are all watching more content, and we are probably watching it together as well, because if you think about the dynamics versus watching something something on a screen as an individual versus watching something, perhaps it's on in the living room, there's perhaps family members around. So I think it's really interesting to see how YouTube has made that kind of transition. I know that a lot of kind of outlets will regard YouTube as the biggest streaming platform alongside exactly as you say, the likes of Netflix, the likes of Disney Plus. So it's one of those things where there's huge opportunity for your content to get quite a loyal audience because they're going to consume it in a slightly different way. It gives you better opportunity to be doing a little bit more with your visuals. I guess from a filmmaking perspective, it's super exciting, Pascal, and the possibilities are endless. But it's really interesting to see YouTube make that shift from when I was kind of much younger. It was something that you watched on a computer, then it became something that you watched on a phone. Now it's something that you watch on your TV. So actually, YouTube is kind of a little bit out of its original lane here. It's something that's evolving with the way that we consume media, and definitely positions itself as a seamless integration in our day-to-day lives, which gives it a huge advantage for video and becoming a go-to. It's one of the biggest platforms for watching live content. Most audiences, according to a recent survey in the US, 52% of individuals said that they consumed live content on YouTube on a regular basis. So there's a huge opportunity for that, because then it's almost like putting it on the TV, because you're watching it on the TV and it's live. So it's really, really interesting. A lot of kind of sports streaming opportunities are coming up. It's really just taking YouTube away from that videos on the internet to how we consume video in 2024.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I love this return to, a real social moment with friends and family, where you sit down and YouTube in your mind is on par with Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on. And what will be interesting is to see whether YouTube will ever get involved in financing film production and film project. I mean, they had a short-lived stint when they produced their first 𝗬𝗄𝗧 series. It was on YouTube Premium, but then it moved on to Netflix, as you know. So fascinating. Let's move on very quickly then to number 4, final announcement from the CEO of YouTube. Safety is everybody's number one concern. So YouTube, and obviously people working for the platform, are very, very aware that AI content is also a problem. As I mentioned, they're going to make it easier for others to produce the content. They're concerned about deepfake. They're also concerned actually very much about fake audio, particularly when videos are watching low frame rates. You can't tell, in terms of lip sync, whether this person is actually saying those words or they're not. So they're going to be introducing a lot of new policies. In fact, just preempting one thing I'm going to mention in the important, they're going to ask content creators to actually tick a box to say this is AI produced or AI created. But they're also going to do a lot more to educate everybody, family members, businesses, and so on, about how, where possible, to spot, the fake information that would be published on YouTube.
No, and great to see, because we can never have too many safeguards around this type of thing, particularly with AI now. It's such a hot topic. People are very concerned about what's real, what's not real. And I think just improving everyone's understanding that what you see on the internet, even if you see it in video, might not actually be what happened. I think there's still large percentages of populations that might come as a little bit of a kind of shock to, but there are tools out there, and it's really about equipping people with the knowledge, the skills, and the understanding to even just have it in the back of their minds, even if it's not a pressing issue, that if this is content that they are consuming online, it might have come from generated sources. It might be a little bit exaggerated. It might be a little bit kind of fixed in post. It might not be quite as things kind of happened. So I think anything that can protect the viewing community, but also protect content creators themselves, in terms of giving them and equipping them. And this is something that I think you and I talked about on our last recording, Pascal, a set of rules that they can then follow and play by right, it gives a really consistent kind of opportunity for everyone. It also helps create some standards and some expectations, and a little bit sort of, the opportunity to police ourselves almost, which can sometimes be a bit of a dangerous thing. However, I think if the consensus is that something to be done correctly is often done in an X, Y, and Z fashion, most content creators will want to play by those rules. They want their content to be, kind of standing alongside other peers. I think it just gives everyone a really clear idea of what they're meant to be doing. And I think sometimes slightly sinister or strange practices occur when it's not quite obvious what we're meant to be doing. So I think the more dialogue and the more kind of guidance that can be provided around this, the absolute better, because the kind of elephant in the room is the slightly controversial history of YouTube Kids, which has not always had a squeaky clean reputation despite YouTube wanting it to be an absolute safe space. Their most recent stats, YouTube Kids is hitting 100 million active monthly users. So what they're doing is they're bringing in some specialist experts. I was really pleased to read around mental health, around kind of body image, around perception of reality, understanding of the world. So actually they're bringing in all the right voices to the table, and hopefully through this the right processes can be implemented and the right synthetic labels can be in place. But I think definitely giving people the opportunity to self-declare that content, that is great, and that's half the battle. I can imagine that if they do bring in some systems to detect AI content, it might be incredibly frustrating if you don't have any AI content and you're getting the label anyway on that content, but vice versa. It might be a bit frustrating if you can't get the label but you want the label for your content. So I don't think it's going to be seamless. I don't think it's going to be flawless, but I think the important thing is we're moving forward and there is a dialogue around this. And in this fantastic open letter from head of YouTube, it really sets the narrative and says, okay, we're here, this is where we're going, and it just gives a little bit of shared focus and shared vision for everything.
That's smashing. So everyone, we've got the hyperlink for you to look in the show notes so you can actually read. You're right, it's an open letter to the community and to share their their big plans. Before we wrap up on this spotlight on YouTube, I want to ask actually two questions. The first one probably simpler, then the second one not so simple. Number one, actually back to what you were saying about YouTube Kids. Do you think there's an argument to have a YouTube business platform of sort and separate business to entertainment? Because I'll give you an example. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. I've got my camera profile. I upload webinars and more into my channel for people to look after the event. But if I look at my feed, it's a mess. It's a combination of Star Wars updates to 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 to the latest trailer from Dune Part 2 to then it's this combination of all my interest. And I wonder whether actually for all of us in business, we would benefit from a YouTube business subset, and then you have YouTube lifestyle. Let's say, what do you think?
Oh, I quite like that. I wonder whether that could even be done in a way where it's almost not even a separate account, but separate feeds within a kind of account, a little bit like Facebook's kind of up to 7 profiles for each element of your personality. I think that might be a really nice and innovative way to go to certainly to sort that content. I watch a lot of YouTube videos with my other half that are usually kind of like the feel good, kind of cheesier side of YouTube. But if I go on there, there's always 100 engineering videos that I need to sift through because they're on the same algorithm. So I know exactly what you mean. I would rather click a cheesy feel good filter and then have my latest 𝗵𝗏 video available there to watch, rather than scroll through everything, because I know what you mean. An algorithm can get cluttered because there is so much different type of content that you might be consuming to cover all audiences and all interests that you have as a multifaceted human being. So I think maybe having these different kind of feeds and algorithms might be a really interesting way to go with it. And if you are thinking, actually, I want to go on and I want to have something that's an alternative to putting on a podcast, I want to put on a really interesting YouTube video in the background that is about a specific business topic, may well make discovery a little bit simpler.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Let me ask you the question, which I hinted at during the introduction. So YouTube looks like a social network. I mean, you could argue it's got all the features. You've got a header picture. You can complete the about section. You can organize your content into groups and playlists. You can upload. You can share. You can have comments and so on. It looks like a social network. However, to me, it doesn't feel like a social network. Am I missing something?
See, my gut is it is not a social network.
Oh.
However, if I was to say traditionally, there are 5 elements of a social network. So to be a social network, you must have user-generated content, and it's a big tick for YouTube. There's no issues with that. You must have the opportunity for users to interact. You've got the opportunity to like, to comment. You absolutely can interact with the content on YouTube. You need the opportunity to personalize. You can set your profile image, you can set your bio, you can subscribe and kind of personalize your feed. You've got the opportunity to network, so to connect with others and to find shared interests. You can certainly do that through the search facility. And the 5th element would be you've got the opportunity for content to go viral. So the opportunity for something to generate rapid shares is a key characteristic of a social network. So on the basis of YouTube is 5 for 5 there, technically it is a social network. However, I would say it was a video sharing social media platform rather than a social media platform, because you could, in theory, and it might not be great, but you could run an effective social media presence without video, but you couldn't run a effective YouTube presence without video. So I think it's that sort of element of, it's very much the video focused. I would refer to it as a video search engine if I was being super picky about it. However, it has all of the elements of a social network, and as such, we can definitely treat it as a really strong part of any digital presence in a way that engages, excites, converts, and gives us the opportunity to communicate with our customers, which is the most important of all.
For me, the element that is missing, and I must obviously realize that perhaps I've not done a good enough job to commit and express, my preferences, but I hear about all manner of content which is popular, but I don't hear about content from what we call my network. So your videos, my friend Richard's videos, my colleagues, my associates, people that I would say are my level 1 kind of contacts. I don't get to see that. And I know there's ways and means to click on the bell and to do all those wonderful things. But this is what to me it makes YouTube go on the maybe to no column when it comes to a social network, is that you don't get that true social networking element, I reckon.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And I think it's a little bit like, there isn't really space for that peer-to-peer communication unless you go really deep into niche topics and you look for your immediate peers, but that will take some absolute graft. Or the rest of us mere mortals watch high-level influencers collaborate with one another. So I know exactly what you mean. It's a conversation that we are more observing and perhaps putting on a comment that might gain limited engagement rather than something that we are truly part of, or that we can have our own smaller networks on. It's very much sort of those kind of bigger players, unless, like you say, you were to go in and do a very, very deep dive, lot of effort, really curate your feed. I think you could do it, but would it be worth it when you could just log on LinkedIn for the same thing?
Well, quite, yeah, absolutely. Everyone, thank you very much for listening to this spotlight on YouTube. Now I've got a few questions for you. So firstly, your reaction to the 4 announcement from the CEO of YouTube. Is that going to make you more excited about using YouTube marketing? Is it going to make you actually less likely to use it? Number 2, what about the YouTube business only subset to, through the platform? And then number 3, where do you stand? Is YouTube a social network or is it not? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in different ways you can get in touch with us. Now, let's speed things up, if you don't mind, Natalie, with our next segment, the one tech or tactic to try out. Now, in this segment of the show, we look at one tactic or one tech we try out this month, and then for you to give us your feedback. So, Natalie, have you chosen a tech or a tactic?
I have chosen a tactic, and it is just get started with video. So I thought, because we've had so much conversation around YouTube and the increasingly relevant way that video is impacting almost every aspect of our lives, there are still many organizations out there that are either tentative about starting video for the first time, or they start it, they pick it up, they put it down. It's not a consistent element within their social media strategy. And it is one of the strongest, most effective types of media you can produce for your socials. It can be very human, it can be very informative, and it can just add a bit of a kind of dynamic feel to your social networks. So my advice with video is, if you haven't yet done anything, just get started. And the easiest way to get started is to simply look at the opportunities and the things that you have going on around you anyway, and just simply try and document them a little bit in video form. So if you're going to a conference, can you produce a short video about you being there? If you are coming out of a meeting, can you make a short video just recapping a really interesting conversation that you've had about something that's super relevant to your sector? To help with this, and because it's been on our mind a little bit at the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 office, we've actually just launched a introduction to video for social blog series that's live over on our blog right now at 𝗧𝗵𝗃media.co.uk. We'll be adding to it this month and beyond as we head towards kind of summer. So everything on there, from tips for getting started, tips to the equipment you might need, tips to video ideas. So I really can't kind of encourage enough, just have a little go at bringing in an element of video to what you're doing. Have a look at the content that you've currently got. Think about whether you could switch any of that to video, if that's a longer form post or a short blog. How could you present that in a slightly different way, and just reward your audiences with video? I'm sure from the engagement you generate, you will be encouraged to give it a second go and make it a regular part of your social media marketing.
Thank you very much. As a reminder, you and I believe as well that you don't have to be on screen, so to speak. So I love what you said about documenting. You know, I did a test once. I did like a bit of A/B testing. So I was some years ago now at the conference. I took a still and I took a 15-second video of just the room buzzing with excitement and networking, you know, like the noise of the conversation. So posted was on LinkedIn, you know, and say, hey, you know, this was the event, and put the picture. And then a few days later, I posted something a bit different about the event and put a video. And I think it was a combination of people and algorithm, the one with the video, which was a single shot of me just panning across a room just to capture, again, you know, the hustle and bustle of a good networking event, got a lot more reach and reactions. So you don't have to be on screen. You can begin by documenting what you've done, who you've met, and so on and so forth. So that's great. I've gone for tech this time. And this one actually surprised me somewhat. And I've got to thank my friend Ian Anderson Gray for letting me know that Adobe have a platform called Adobe Express, which is a kind of a Canva-like or Canva-light platform. And I do like Adobe Express because it gives, I think the designs and the time are a fraction sharper than what you can get on Canva. So it's a different way of doing what you do. But they recently released a free social media scheduler. So literally a very easy to use platform. You just need to spend a moment to connect your social network to the free Adobe Express and then schedule an account. And literally, if you're a lapsed user of any form of scheduler, or if you've never used one before, this is a great way to get back into it because the interface is very simple. They also have a very neat feature where they can allow you to preview what it's going to look like on Facebook compared to X, compared to Instagram, and so on. So what you can do, all of you, is literally a plan, for example, you know, your content, and you should, in fact, have that plan for the next month or so, and then practice using the scheduler. I mean, I'm one that I use it as and when I need it to. I'm still slightly addicted to native uploading. I don't know how you feel about it, but I know you've got lots of clients to look after. But I thought two things. I can't believe it's free. I can't believe how useful and user-friendly it is. And why not actually have something up your sleeve? Adobe Express, the hyperlink is in the show notes.
No, it sounds awesome, and I'll definitely be checking it out. It sounds like a really exciting kind of feature. My view is always a little bit split. So for clients and things that we know that we're running as strategic campaigns, we do always schedule them. But I love a bit of immediate native posting content. So if you get something behind the scenes or that comes through quickly, I'm always really excited to post it. But without a scheduling platform, I would just be so stressed all of the time. So if you are not using one, I promise you it's a game changer for your socials.
Excellent. Well, listen, let's get your action on some recent news and announcement from social networks in our next segment, Important, Not Important. So what I've done for the important, not important segment of the show, I've researched news and announcement from social networks. I'm going to present them to you, Natalie. And I'm going to ask you to react by stating whether it's important or not important. I will pick 2 or 3 for a more in-depth conversation. So I'll start with number 1 announcement. Instagram has been inviting some users to upload 3-minute videos for their reels up from the current 90-second limit. Is that important or not important?
Oh, I don't think it's important because I don't think our Instagram audiences have the long enough attention span.
Okay, number 2, TikTok are now offering the option to add some of the platform's most recognizable voices to your videos. We're talking about influencers here, and offer the perfect soundtrack for trend-ready content. Important or not important?
Not important. It's influencer endorsement without any of the value of influencer endorsement. It's no different to changing the voice on your sat nav if people still use those.
Number 3, Facebook has reintroduced poking for the 3rd time in 20 years. Facebook decided to make them more prominent. We're going to see them now appearing in search results for people who you know in the app.
I'm not sure the world needed this. Not important.
TikTok again could be facing a complete ban in the US as the ByteDance owned platform continues to stoke national security concerns stemming from this Chinese ownership and handling of US data.
Incredibly important to see this coming back into the headlines.
Number 5, YouTube has introduced a new policy requiring creators to disclose if their videos have been altered in any ways using AI, although it is unclear whether it's going to affect the algorithm.
Important and very good practice.
Number 6, Google has now added a new section within its business listings in search called Social Media Update, which displays recent social media posts from your connected profiles.
Important. It's nice to get a little bit of extra bang for your buck when you're posting on socials.
LinkedIn has expanded its thought leader ads capabilities to include posts from any LinkedIn members, customers, or even industry experts, not just your employees.
Important because it means that your voice could be amplified in ways that you hadn't been expecting, but I'm not sure it'll catch on.
Number 8, and finally, Instagram is testing Get Orders stickers that allows users to create a product and attach the sticker to their Instagram story to receive orders directly.
Important. It stands it in opposition to TikTok shops.
Okay, let's talk about TikTok and this actually highly likely ban in the US. And not only, obviously, it's kind of wow, a government taking that initiative. I mean, I know that the Senate has been busy, essentially dragging all the owners and leaders of the social networks through the coals. But there's been demonstrations in the US from small business owners saying, hang on a minute, you're going to kill my business if you ban TikTok. So this is serious business, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think some of it stems from a place of not understanding. And I think you only need to watch 2 minutes of an elderly politician interviewing Mark Zuckerberg to actually see that the level of understanding of how these platforms work, how they integrate with everything is just not quite where you would want it to be for the people who are making decisions about these platforms and how they work and how they sort of fit into wider society. So I think some of it stems from this misunderstanding of how they work. I think some of it stems from a misunderstanding and a popular popular misconception that TikTok is owned by the Chinese government. It is not. However, laws in China do allow the government to subpoena the network and basically force them to kind of give them all their data or do anything. Not to say that they are doing that or have any intention to do it. It's just that I guess the possibility of that happening is something that is far more real than that happening in the US or in the UK or in kind of a lot of countries around the world. So it's created this kind of fear, and I would use the phrase sort of moral panic around TikTok. I think the fact that it is super addictive then doesn't really work alongside that, because it can be seen as even more of a sinister force that all these young people are spending so much time on. It's because it is something that is overseas. There's a great deal more skepticism around things like election interference and propaganda. We do see TikTok, because of the nature of the algorithm, it can take you on quite a deep dive, one of two ways on any debate. So we do see an element of kind of polarization of views on a platform. So I think some of this is a legitimate concern about the setup of the organization. I think some of it is things that TikTok does very well, when magnified, don't necessarily come across as forces for good in the world. But fundamentally, for small businesses, it comes back to this debate of, when we are creating social media accounts, we are building our castles on someone else's beach, and these are not platforms that we own. Yes, you can fill out the business manager settings and you can make sure that your page is correctly registered as an asset of your company, and Facebook has all your contact information, but that's the illusion of ownership. Ultimately, you are essentially renting that space from any social network. And I think it's something that shouldn't put anyone off social networking, but should help you kind of keep perspective that these are simply routes to your customers. It is not you having any level of ownership on that particular platform. A little bit like your traditional media. So if you're creating a TV commercial, you then don't own part of that TV station. You are simply using that as a broadcast channel for getting your message out. So I think it's just a little bit of a reality check. I think the concern is that because some businesses do very, very well on TikTok, that it would sink them. I think if it was removed entirely, it's at least removed on a level playing field. So it's not like other businesses that are your competitors get to keep their TikTok presence and yours disappears. It's a case of it will disappear entirely, in which case other networks will just move across into that void. You will see a mass kind of exodus shift in terms of audiences suddenly going from TikTok and establishing themselves elsewhere. Whether that would be Instagram, whether it would be something else, there are other kind of smaller players. There's still scope for something else to be set up entirely. So I think that's wary of consideration. It's not going to sink your business, because other opportunities will come along when a door closes, another opens. That type of element. And remember that it will be even for kind of everyone. But so interesting to see this debate from a political perspective rather than from we need to create content and videos for TikTok perspective.
And for us, UK residents as well, we've had the recent announcement that there is evidence as well of Chinese government approved wranglings with online activities and that kind of thing. So it's not helpful at all. So where they are with TikTok, they're essentially going to be given two choices: sell the US arm of your business to a US company, and people like Microsoft are kind of jumping at the bit, or leave. So it's going to be fascinating. Moving on quickly, I'm actually quite excited about this idea of Google adding the social media updates as part of your Google business profile, and because I've encouraged many of my customers to at least claim that space, on the Google search results page. And I think to add that kind of social element, because most of the information on business profile is quite static in nature. By all means, you can add micro blog posts and so on, but even I got bored of doing that, so I think to have an automatic feed from social media updates, I think is great. The one I wanted to kind of finish on is that LinkedIn one. I'm really perplexed by this. So I read it several times thinking, am I understanding this news correctly? So literally there's a advertising feature called thought leader ads, and to date all you could do was to sponsor and promote and boost the reach of your own content. But what they're saying here, and I read it several times, and that's true, it's going to be anybody's content that you can choose to spend your hard-earned dollars or pounds or euros to push it out. I was thinking, that is strange, but why not?
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting one. We have seen historically some examples of this type of amplification on Twitter, where slightly borderline kind of medical companies were basically putting budget behind anyone that was talking about their product. So they might talk about something that was mildly embarrassing, and talk to their audience in quite a charming, funny way. As an individual, you might make a little joke about having a little bit of heartburn, then suddenly found themselves as the face of 𝗧𝗵𝗲 latest kind of example. And apologies, because I know it wasn't 𝗧𝗵𝗲, it was other similar organizations, but actually it left a bit of a sour taste in people's mouths that suddenly your content was up for grabs to be monetized in whatever way these kind of companies saw fit. So I think as long as everyone is sensible and realistic and uses this responsibly, it will be an interesting thing to see. But I could imagine if we get one or two horror stories that work in a similar fashion, it will be one of those features that just disappears over the course of a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your feedback. Everyone, let us know about the news you may have come across that have not been listed today. I choose 8 on purpose all of the time. Let us know as well about your feelings about TikTok. I mean, would you miss the platform if it was to be banned from the UK or the US? And are you with Natalie and I? We don't need more poking on Facebook. We'll see how that goes. We've reached the final segment of the social media newsroom, film marketing social media special, just after this. So, Natalie, you chose the movie. That is your job as part of the social media newsroom. And for people watching the video format, you've been reminded that the selection is the Super Mario Brothers movie. The reason for that, for you listening to the podcast, Natalie is basically has a Mario face mask, which, judging by the size, you've stolen from your nephew or something like this.
It is. So thank you, Jake, for that.
Excellent. Listen, as I mentioned a moment ago, I have never seen the 2023 version of the Super Mario Brother movies. I think I was still scarred from the 1993 okay-ish attempt to make a movie. But I'll tell you what, let's begin our conversation by watching the trailer.
Not sure if you know who I am, but I'm about to rule the world.
Wow, yay!
But there's one problem. There's a human, has a mustache, just like you.
Do you think I know every human being with a mustache wearing an identical outfit with a hat with the letter of his first name on it? Because I don't.
Bowser is coming. Together, we are going to stop that monster.
How? Look at us. We're adorable.
Oh, I got this. No problem. Yes!
Come on, Mario! Our big adventure begins now!
Ah! Get it off! Get it off! Get it off!
There's a huge universe out there.
Whoa.
With a lot of galaxies. They're all counting on us. No pressure.
Wahoo!
Yeah, I mean, I must watch this. It feels like a very cleverly crafted story, and plus there's all the nostalgia. So I don't know about you, but I played Super Mario Brothers in the arcades down into my first, I think it was a Sega Mega Drive that I had at home, and I worked my way through the different kind of games. But it's just part of popular culture. Even people who never played the game know about the characters.
Oh, absolutely. For me, it was the original Game Boy, the one that was literally a brick with no kind of color on the screen. But yeah, Super Mario Brothers 1 and 2 arrived with the games console, and I must have played those to absolute death. But yes, it was a huge part of, I think, everyone's youth as a kind of cultural icon. The games have definitely stood the test of time because they are still putting them out, so it's still a frame of reference. I don't think it matters when you grew up. I think you probably grew up with a key Mario moment happening at the same time.
And back to what I was saying, even if you've not played the game, you know the tune, right? People, the moment it begins, people just go, you make that connection. So talk about audio branding to begin with. So what is interesting is when you look at the movie industry in general, the transition from video game to film it's not always been a happy one. You know, there's been so many different attempts with some different games, even more recently. I mean, I know that people were a bit disappointed by the Uncharted movie. So Uncharted is just an amazing franchise, a wonderful storytelling from a gaming point of view. People were not so keen on the Assassin's Creed. I think Hitman was all right, you know, so, but it's never been like a joyous moment. And I wonder whether the transition was ushered by things like Ready Player One, you know, by Spielberg, and I think was it Wreck-It Ralph that also was out there, where you played to the nostalgia. I think the movie Pixels as well did a very, very good job. But Super Mario, of course, there's the legacy of the 1993 attempt, which was, I don't want to be too mean, but it didn't work so well for the fans. And I think the decision to make it an animated movie was very, very wise. And just by the trailer, where if you know the game, you're going to be given an extra bit of information that you don't know. If you don't know the game at all, you're going to be transported into this wonderful universe.
No, absolutely. I think I also remember the quite harrowing, let's say, original. I don't think it ever needed a live action kind of version of it. The kind of move back to animation put it back into that sort of gamified world, which I think was a lot more of a safer space for audiences to engage with the Marioverse on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, what we do with regard to reviewing the film marketing social media special for our viewers and listeners, we do our research all the way to the premiere. I know there's always plenty of stuff happening post-launch, but we have to give ourselves a bit of a brief and a remit. Otherwise, this would be a very, very long episode, you know, talking about the film. So, you know, for all of you, the premiere was in Los Angeles, of course, on the 1st of April, 2023. So literally 30 years after the initial attempt. And there was a global release on the 5th of April, 2023. Interestingly, when the first teaser posters and trailers came out, the 7th of April was promoted. And I would imagine there was probably maybe a conflict with other releases from the same companies, or they felt, you know what, let's change it slightly. So they even had to promote the 5th of April as part of the social media campaign. They have Facebook, they have Instagram, they have Twitter. They did have TikTok. And what I found fascinating, I wouldn't mind getting your reaction on this, TikTok was part of the social media marketing mix, but it's never referred to in the official, if you will, report. Is it because TikTok content is short-lived, or is it because it's still not part of a serious platform like Facebook in the mind of the marketers?
Oh, that's a really interesting, I guess, perspective on it. I think there is a lot of snootiness when it comes to TikTok. TikTok is seen as arguably, like, you know, one of the I guess, you're engaging with the youngest possible audience on there. The content is moving image and perhaps slightly more vacuous than the type of quality content that you might be striving to put out on other platforms. It is also a little bit trickier to measure, and I think unless you are going really big bucks into paid TikTok, you might just be conducting it as a little bit of a modest kind of element of your global marketing for a blockbuster film.
Yeah. So they had hashtags, of course. They had hashtag 𝗧𝗵𝗵 and hashtag 𝗧𝗵𝗵 as well. So people were able to obviously do their own kind of content. The teaser trailer was released on the 6th of October 2022. So it was kind of an autumn-ish. We had the official trailer, which saw a moment ago, on the 29th of November. And then really from there on, they had almost like a spring sprint, if you will, leading to the premieres in April. So you've done the research. I've done some research as well. What would be for you the highlight from the social media content ideas and tactics?
Oh, well, I may have mentioned this before, but we are suckers for the Super Bowl in the 𝗁𝗁𝗃 media office. So I was absolutely delighted as part of our Super Bowl roundup for 2023. A big part of that was, in fact, the Mario Brothers plumbing commercial that dropped. Now, they had the opportunity to put out the trailer. They did not. Instead, they put out an absolute masterpiece. So this was a genuine commercial featuring Mario and Luigi, basically selling their plumbing services. It was packed with Easter eggs. So this is anything like, there was a very short scene that featured a map that had 1889 Street, which was a reference to when Nintendo was founded. It had the classic iconic kind of palms over face, slightly Macaulay Culkin look of Luigi on Luigi's Mansion, which goes back to those old school game boxes, when you used to go to a physical store to buy your game and you'd stand in the queue and you'd be so excited to play it when you got home. So it was packed with Easter eggs. My favorite thing about it is they had a really good call to action, so it was a great commercial. But they put up a fully functioning website, which tragically is no longer there. I know.
Why do they do this, Natalie? Why do they do this? Every single movie has a website, although this one is by far the best website ever. And, for our viewers and listeners, if you try and go onto the website using the URL, you're taken to the very boring, essentially, streaming services platform.
No, absolutely. Just keep it that people need it. Maybe put an additional screen on there. Obviously, that would ruin the illusion entirely. But this was a genuine kind of plumbing website for Mario and Luigi's plumbing services. Right down to testimonials, good and bad, that were on there. There was also a hotline, so you could listen to Luigi, which again had another mansion reference in it. So totally kind of delicious marketing that you could really, really geek out on if you were a Mario fan, even down to the fact that the rap that was performed was actually related to a previous Mario show that had a very questionable rap as the kind of opening credit music, but it was just full of nostalgia and full of fun. So that was my absolute highlight of everything, but there was so much good marketing to pick from with this one.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting? You mentioned about, what makes a social network, and it's the user-generated content. So you literally had people who at first didn't believe that the number would work. So literally you could ring the 92955 Mario number and they thought, well, nothing's going to happen. And suddenly out of nowhere, Luigi's voice pipes are saying, so, to the point of, sorry, we're far too busy, leave us a message and that kind of things. So there would be videos all over the internet of people ringing the number, videoing themselves, laughing and being just in hysterics because they got to speak to Luigi, so to speak. But the way they played with, for example, strapline like, this is a family-owned and operated business, and fixing pipes is our game. And little things like this was just absolutely remarkable. So much so that I don't understand. I mean, I'm sure, the distributors, I do believe were Universal, someone can correct me. they can afford a bit of hosting fees to leave those websites up and running. I'm not sure how that works. But in the subject of user-generating content, the whole campaign was around creating moments in time, virtually and in person, for people to capture photos and videos and share them on. So the one that I picked up was happening in Paris. And some of the iconic columns in center of Paris were converted into those warp pipes. So if people know to play the game, you can go into a pipe and be taken to a sub-world, if you will. And this was literally all over the Champs-Élysées, and people would be taking pictures of that and send them all over the social networks.
I loved that. I thought it was so clever because traditionally these columns would have been used to promote film and cinema. So it was such a playful take to go all out on that rather than just have the traditional kind of poster inside. It was much more of an Instagrammable moment than if you'd walk past a poster for Super Mario, because you might have thought, oh, I'll see the film, I want to see it. But it wasn't that quite enough to encourage you to photograph it, put your socials. Probably not, but actually making it much more of a moment, much more immersive, much more to see and get excited about. I think it made a real difference for literally the sake of popping a little topper on there with a plastic Mario.
Oh, absolutely. You talk about moments, and I think that they were very clever because moments they created. So, for example, in March 2023, fans were invited to Nintendo New York, kind of headquarters, and literally the invitation was, come to the New York store. We're going to reveal the latest trailer, and bizarrely, we're going to reveal Mario's boots used in the movie. I mean, it's fake, right? Because Mario's an animated character, and we're going to reveal like physical items. And people were filming, people were using the hashtag Mario Day, but with the 1 and a 0 for the letter I and O. So creating moments where there was almost like a rush and a gathering. And for me, the one that they did really, really well, and sometimes I'm very jealous of our US friends because they get always the best PR stunts, where on the 3rd of April, so that's 2 days before the premiere, the global release, forgive me, Nintendo and Illumination, the two main producers, hosted a drone light show over Santa Monica Pier, and they used 600 drones, and they would change positions and colors to showcase the different characters present in the movie, and people were filming this, sharing it around the world.
Yeah, it just made it so much more exciting, so much more immersive, and feeling like you're part of it, like it's drawing you in rather than, oh, it's out, come and see it whether you want to. I think also part of what made the Mario movie so successful was actually reaching people in unexpected places. So actually suddenly there is a drawn light show because you don't think, oh, there's a film coming out, we must arrange the drawn light show to kind of promote the movie. It's one of those slightly different takes on how can we get this to a slightly different audience across the world, but especially in the UK. And I thought this was quite a curveball, but again, a great opportunity to delight. They had a large collaboration with the cosmetics company Lush. So actually you could go in and you could buy a Super Mario bath bomb, or you could buy a Princess Peach shower gel. And actually, I think just taking what would traditionally have been a largely female demographic that you might not necessarily think, oh, they'll be dying to watch the kind of Mario movie, but I think actually positioning the Mario movie offering in a way that it's actually in these products that people are rapidly kind of consuming made it just more interesting, just gave us more to kind of feel like we were being rewarded with as audiences. It was more keen to reach us on our level. It was more part of everything, and that nostalgia was kind of really tangible, I think.
Yeah, and talking about partnership, one that I've seen done before, a different movie altogether with Amazon. So for maybe a month only, people were ordering obviously items from Amazon, and the box was shaped into those question mark boxes that you can kind of break to get more bricks and more coins, playing the game. So of course they would receive a Mario Brother type box. It would take a picture, send it over to the world. I did look as well at the I thought I'll focus on the Instagram account for the purpose of today's review. And I was really, really impressed with a number of things. To begin with, they had their own unique Instagram stickers that people could obviously play with and add to their reels and more. They have some great wallpapers as well. But when you look at the campaign, which is one of the pleasures of looking back sometime from the first entry on an Instagram all the way to the premiere, you really can see tactics. So, for example, they would reveal which characters from the franchise would be present in the movie, and not all of them are present, suggest maybe a sequel and more. So there was an element of revealing little by little, letting the fan really get excited. There were countdowns. There was obviously live Q&As with the voiceover artists, from Jack Black to Chris Pratt and so on. There was even, of course, a recorded gaming session. Of course, you play the game between all the different characters, all jostling and elbowing each other to try and obviously win the race, doing the go-kart game and so on. So real complicity as well between the producers, the actors, and the fans. And that makes for a very enjoyable social media campaign to follow, because sometimes some movies do just what is required, and there isn't really anything to get excited about. I'm informed about the movie coming out soon, but here there was literally, dare I say, something quite playful.
Oh, completely. I think even just down to Jack Black's red carpet looks at the various premieres, where he went borderline kind of full Bowser through to just kind of some very cool suit customization and little shell elements on his back. So I think there was a ton of playfulness, and I think just the feeling that everyone else is having a good time and you are invited just went a huge way to kind of create this kind of warmth, sentiment, and I guess feeling that people needed to go and see this movie.
Yeah, which I shall do very, very soon. Now, we choose obviously film marketing, and it's twofold. You and I love movies, and we want to look at the social media marketing, but we do this for this to be a source of inspiration for everybody else out there who's not in the movie industry. So looking back now at your research and kind of going down memory lane about reflecting on the movie itself, are there any lessons? Are there the key takeaways from this campaign that we could use in our sectors?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it'd be remiss of me to not push video one final time in this. So according to 𝗏𝗃 social content pulse, basically they looked back at the content that was created around the 1st through to 11th of April. And they found that video content that mentioned Mario and movie across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram was able to generate 16.5 million total actions. That's reactions, shares, and comments, and also 31.3 million video views. So if that's not inspo for supercharging your video, I don't know what is. It shows that even if you are as big as the Mario movie and you've got all these great other elements to your marketing, there is huge potential with your video on social. From that, just have fun with it. The whole, I guess, premise of the film was, to encourage these audiences through nostalgia, or if you were like little Jake, my nephew, 7 years old, sort of just getting into the Mario universe for the first time. It was the feeling that you were invited, that there was this story to kind of enjoy, and that you could be part of the narrative. I think certainly, without giving too much away, Pascal, but some of the characters had a little bit of a kind of polish up, and traditional kind of video game roles were updated slightly, which was very, very kind of refreshing to see for kind of future generations, that the narrative had changed very slightly, but I won't give too much away. So I think it was the element of fun, and I think the key takeaway is your audiences will know if you're having fun. So if you're putting out content that is positive, that you believe in, you can absolutely tell. So just take your digital audiences, your customers, your potential customers, and your contacts along for the ride. Have them on the journey with you, and think about how you can delight them.
Yeah, and I think this idea of revealing, elements of your business over a certain time going through the breaking down the information. Don't feel like people can just be satisfied with just a trailer and then they get it, and that kind of things. And also looking for channels of communication. So sometimes they are your own. So the Nintendo New York was a hub of activity, but partner with Lush. Look at what they can do with Amazon. So look around your network, those who are already in communication with your target audience, and look at partnership. I think to me is also a lesson in there. And I will say again, with the Instagram account, it was very, very neat. So I think an effort on design and layout is probably also a key takeaway. I mean, even just for example, it's rather a long title as a movie. Think of it, the Super Mario Brothers movie, but the way the calligraphy was created, it fits perfectly the circle for the icon and the badge on Instagram, the square on Twitter and so on. So I think there was also some nice reflection on design and layout, which we can always improve upon for all our businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Often the feeling is, we'll just put it out and it'll come together. But actually having a little bit more kind of effort around that certainly always goes a long way.
Natalie, yet another fine selection for the film marketing social media special. A quick message to our friend at Nintendo and Illumination. Natalie and I will be delighted to host the website, right? So I'm sure you still have the code somewhere. You have everything. We'll do it for you. We'll find the budget. Don't you worry about it. We'll do that. But no, seriously, all of you filmmakers, leave those websites. The fans want to have a look at it, and it's part of your legacy. Natalie 𝗵𝗍, thank you so much for being a wonderful co-host and for all the research you've done for all the key segment, including film marketing. All of you out there, thank you very much for your support. Please send us your questions and your suggestions for particularly film marketing. Until the next time, go out there and make sure your social media is better and faster. I was Pascal Fintoni, and she was Natalie 𝗵𝗍. Bye for now.